I'm Kathryn, and welcome to my podcast. Today is Thursday, August the 3rd, 2017, and I am coming to you, as always, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I live with my husband, Andrew, and our dog, Iggy. You can find me on RAVELRY as Hey, I'm Kathryn Knits, and you can find me on Instagram at Hey, I'm Kathryn _the podcast. So, it has been another month since episode 3. I know I said that I would be back sooner, but surprise, I wasn't. We went on vacation for a week in July, and so the entire week before that I was super busy, obviously getting ready to go away, and then the entire week we were gone, I wasn't going to film. I didn't even take a laptop or anything with me. I just kind of wanted to de-stress and kind of get away from the internet a little bit, take a breather, and then got back. And I mean, everyone knows what it's like when you get back from holidays and you're unpacking things and kind of settling back in. So anyways, here we are. I finally have some finished objects to show you, and I've made some progress on some other things. So anyways, I now have a reason to podcast. So here I am. So what else has been going on? It has been like hot as balls in Calgary, like ridiculously stupidly hot. And I've lived in Calgary now for 12 years. So not as long as I lived in Edmonton, which is where I grew up and went to university and lived for the first 20 some odd years of my life. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many. But Calgary's gotten hot during the day, but it's always gotten cold at night. Like it would go down to like 13 degrees or 15 degrees. So it's not cold, but you wake up in the morning and it's cool. Like I would normally be walking the dog every morning in a jacket and long pants because it would be 14 degrees and I would be cold. But this year it has been like 30 degrees during the day and then like 21 degrees at night with no wind. And it's been so hot. And everyone is so cranky. Like you can tell who doesn't have air conditioning or who has air conditioning and it's broken because they are cranky because no one is sleeping. It's awful. But I'm also not complaining because it will be winter again, like sooner than I even want to think about it, to be perfectly honest. So anyways, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about the weather? Nothing. You can just kind of tolerate it. So I have been very happy to be working on smaller projects because the last thing that you want when it's 35 degrees outside is to have like a giant blanket on your lap. So I am glad that like I got Andrew's blanket done and I'm working on shawls and stuff now. So I mean, it's still a lot of merino in your lap, but it's not like 7 pounds of acrylic the way Andrew's blanket is. But speaking of Andrew's blanket, I told you last time, I was so sick of it. I'm so glad to be done. But I'm still so sick of it, and it's also been so hot that I haven't touched it since I last podcast. So the blanket is sitting like just off camera here where I've left it since July 1st because I don't want to touch it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to think about it. But then like last night or 2 nights ago, I had a dream where I frogged the entire thing. I went and I just got out my ball winder and just started frogging the entire blanket and pulled it all apart, and I crocheted it instead. And I think in my dream there were like little hexies that I had crocheted. So then I woke up and instead of being like horrified that, you know, the blanket was now haunting my dreams, I was like, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I should do that. As happy as I am to be done, I don't know that I'm super happy with the finished product. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was not my best work, which I knew it wouldn't be. It's like my first big project. But now, even just a few months later, I think I would have the skills to attempt something different. So anyways, I'm not doing anything yet because the last thing I want to do is start that same damn blanket 3 times in the same calendar year. But maybe like next spring when it's warmer and you're not going to want to curl up on the couch with a big giant acrylic blanket, maybe then I'll snip it and pull it apart. Stay tuned. I'll have to show up for future episodes. So anyways, that was quite a long intro, but if you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. Even if you just spend 10 minutes with me, I appreciate it very much. It means a lot to me that anybody wants to spend time with me in real life or on the internet, perfectly honest. And if you are a new viewer, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I hope you like what you see, and I hope that you will come back for my next episode. So, moving right along to finished objects, or goat off my needles. I only have one finished object to show you this time. So starting in, I want to say May, middle of May, Allison Barnes, who is obviously the dyer behind Allison Barnes Collection in Edmonton, was having a shawl along. So it was a knit or crochet along, and the only stipulation was you had to use at least 400 yards of Allison Barnes yarn. And then for your finished object, you had to block it and take really nice pictures and email them to her so that she could use them in promotional materials and show people how her colorways knit up. Because, I mean, no dyer on earth has time to dye and ship and do all the promotion and also knit up samples of all of their colorways. Like, it's not enough time. So I was like, I'll totally do that. But then, of course, I was doing the Narita test knit and a bunch of other things came up and I was trying to do birthday knitting, and then it ended up being like July 1st and I hadn't cast anything on yet. And so I was like, it closes July 15th. Can I knit and block an object before we leave on holidays on July 13th? I thought yes. That was not true. The answer is no, I cannot. So I did have something cast on before we left on holidays, but it was not anywhere close to being done, and I'd even like figured out a MacGyver-y way that I could have blocked things on holidays if I had been able to finish it in like the first 2 days we were there, but I could not. So anyways, I missed the end of the shawl along, but I do have a finished object. So I picked a really, really simple pattern. I knew I wanted something that was a shawl, obviously, because it's a shawl along, and I wanted something that was 2 colors, and something quick and easy and not overly large, so I didn't have to knit for like a million years because I was trying to get it done on time. So I chose the Pure Joy shawl by Joji Locatelli, and it is set up to be 2 colors, and you do like a short row section and then a row of eyelets and then a short row section and a row of eyelets, and then you finish off with like this contrast border in the same color as your eyelet color. So that is what I went to first of all. This is like an incredibly easy pattern. I'm not even kidding. If you want something, if you're a beginner knitter and you don't feel like you have a lot of skills, but you know how to knit and you know how to purl and you can follow instructions. Her instructions are really good, and especially for the short rows, she gives you, she points you in the right direction to go to a really good tutorial that makes it super, super easy. So if you want something that looks, whoops, where's my camera? One day I will figure out where the camera is. Today is not that day. So if you want something that looks kind of impressive for a beginning project, but you're not sure you have the skills to actually like pull anything off, this is your pattern. It is quick. It does not take a lot of time. It does not take a lot of yarn. And I think that's kind of what everyone's looking for. Trust the person whose first project was like 1,000 skein blanket. You do not want to get mired down in a giant project for your first one. Like, just pick something easy and go with it. So I decided to use the colors from Allison's June Yarn of the Month Club. So the main color, which I only have a little tiny bit of it left, is called Great Wide Open. And if you want to see what this looks like all skeined up, you can go back to episode 3, and I talk about it at the end of episode 3 in A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. So that was my main color. And the colors are actually very similar to this painting behind me, just with a little tiny bit of pink thrown in as well, like for the Wild Roses of Alberta. So that was my main color. And then my contrast color was one of the coordinating semi-solids that she dyed to go with Great Wide Open, and this one is called Coconut Husk. And it's just like a really great tonal brown, just like a coconut husk, pretty much. So that is what I started off with. And this is what I ended up with. So, like I said, you start with like this little curved section. You do a garter tab cast on, which is like the hardest part of the whole thing, which is saying something because it's super freaking easy. This is the first time I've ever done one, and it turned out fine. I think like you can't, I think if you, where's my camera? I mean, if you look really closely, you can probably see where it is, like it's right in the middle here, but I mean, it blends in, like it's not like you can tell that there's the little garter tab. So anyways, it was my first time doing it, super, super easy. So this is how it knit up. So as I was knitting through, and you do your short rows and your sections get wider and wider and wider, and I'm hiding behind my shawl. So as I started going through this, I really liked the contrast of the coconut husk with the Great Wide Open. Now, one thing that I was not considering when I picked my yarn, when I picked this pattern, was because it is a variegated yarn, and because there are a lot of different colors in this variegated yarn, and because you're doing short rows, which for anyone who doesn't know, a short row is anything where you just don't knit all the way across before you turn around and come back. That's it. Like, it's just like it sounds. It's a shorter row. So you would knit like 15 stitches in and then turn around and go back to the beginning and then start again, for example. So I did not anticipate, or I didn't realize how much this yarn would pool, which is fine because I don't mind it. But as I was knitting it up, I was a little bit concerned with how it was going to look. So I do like the way the coconut husk kind of picks out the darker brown flecks in the variegated yarn, and I like how it really demarcates where the different sections are. Like even Hohi, in her sample that she has here, like her main color is very, very light. Like I think it's like a peach something, or like off-white with speckles. And then the contrast color she chose really highly contrasted. So I was kind of going for the same thing. But then as I got closer and closer to the end of the shawl, I wasn't sure that I wanted a big, thick section of brown all the way along the bottom of what was an otherwise very light and very like springy, summery shawl. I was worried that it would just be kind of too heavy and it wouldn't give me the look that I was going for. So that's when I went and I pulled out the other coordinating semi-solid that Allison had dyed up for June, and it's called Cornflower. And so I did the final section repeat in Cornflower instead of going back to the coconut husk. And I really, really like how it turned out. I have woven in all of my ends, but I haven't blocked it yet, so I haven't trimmed them. So if there are ends flopping around, don't judge me. So anyway, so I quite like how this turned out. I think it looks very, very nice. I think it showcases her colors very well. And it just shows how well all of the semi-solids go with her Yarn of the Month Club colors. So, I mean, this is not a huge shawl. My gauge was a little bit off. By a little bit, I mean a lot, because I'm like the world's tightest knitter, and I think Hohi is like a super loose knitter. So the recommended needle size for this shawl was a US 6, which is like a 4mm. And so I gauge swatched at the 6, did not even get close to gauge. Gauge swatched at a 7, didn't get close. So I had to go up to an 8, a US 8, which is a 5mm needle, to get gauge. But then as I was knitting my little gauge swatch, I didn't like the way the fabric was looking. I was getting the right number of stitches, but I didn't like the fabric I was getting. So I went back down a needle size. So I ended up using my Chiugu Interchangeables. These are the 4-inch tips and on the red lace cord because I love the memory-free cord. And I ended up using the US size 7 or 4.5mm needles. So my gauge, I'm off gauge, like I'm getting too many stitches per inch, which means that I think my shawl is probably a little bit smaller than other people's. But I like the fabric that I got. Like, I didn't want to have to aggressively block this. So I like the fabric that I got with this. It's a garter stitch shawl, so I think it should be nice and squishy and dense, and I don't want to be seeing like tons and tons of room between the rows. In one of my knitting classes last year, my instructor was like, you hold the fabric up to the light, and if you can see little bits of light through the fabric, that's probably good. It's probably the density that you want to be going for, unless you really want it to be open and airy and very lacy, which is totally fine. You do you, I'll do me. So anyways, I did not use the correct needle size, but I mean, it's still like a very, very healthy sized shawl. I don't think every single shawl needs to be huge and like blanket-like. It can be really nice to have kind of smaller ones that you can just wear as a scarf or whatever you want. So anyways, I like the size that I got. One of the notes that was on her pattern was that a lot of testers ran out of color 1. So she calls for 430 yards of color 1 and said that there were a lot of testers that needed even more than that to get through the 6 repeats or whatever of the shawl that had to be done before you go to your contrast color for the final section. So I kind of ignored that a little bit. We were going on holidays and I was already packing, like, I packed 4 projects, 4 works in progress, and then I packed the raw materials to start 3 more just in case in 7 days I managed to knit my way through 4 different projects. In what world am I going to be able to knit that much? Like, I need to sleep, I need to shower, I need to eat. Like, I can't knit that much. And I can't knit that fast. I'm not a fast knitter yet. So anyways, I ignored that, only took 1 skein of the Great Wide Open and wasn't concerned at all. And as I did like the first 5 sections, and then I was going into the final section with the main color, and I had probably about this much left. Maybe a little bit less. I think when I weighed it, I had like 50 some odd grams. So at the end of section 4, I had 76 grams left. And then at the end of section 5, I had 50 grams left. So I was like, I only used 25 grams to do an entire section. This next section is only 7 rows longer. Like, it is not going to take me that much. Well, I ended up with this. I haven't weighed it, but I assume it's probably like 5 grams-ish. So I did not run out of yarn. I didn't need a second ball, but I'm also not a super loose knitter. So my stitches are smaller and don't take as much yarn. So as I was getting closer and closer and closer to the end of the section, I was like, if I don't have enough and I have to use like 10 yards from another skein, I'm not going to do that. So I had just figured that I would start fingering this in a little bit earlier, or alternately I would just call it quits on that section 1 or 2 rows early and do the contrasting eyelet section and then just move on from there. So anyways, I did not run out of yarn. Still have a little bit left from the original ball, but your mileage may vary depending on your gauge and the needle size that you're using and how big you want your shawl to be. So that is something to be aware of. And also, make sure you read the instructions, and when Hohi says you can just carry your yarn up the side, just do that, because it is super mega hard to weave in a whole bunch of ends when there's like nothing but eyelet rows at that end of your project. So yes, reading comprehension is key, children. Anyways, so yeah, it was a super fun knit. It was really, really quick. Like the first 3 sections go like that. Like you're done way faster than you thought you would be. And the only part that I really didn't like is when you are returning, when you're doing the eyelet rows and you've set them up and you're doing yarn overs and knitting 2 stitches together, they're all purl 2 together as opposed to a knit 2 together. I was taught to Norwegian purl, which I love because I never have to switch my yarn from the back of my work to the front when I'm purling. It always stays in the back and it's fine. But Norwegian purling has a lot of steps, which means it is very slow. So when you do like the first set of purl 2 together and there's like 100 stitches, okay, fine, that's not a big deal. But by by the time you get to the end of the shawl, and it's almost 300 stitches, that's a lot of purl two-togethers, especially when you're slow. So those were not my favorite rows. I was very happy to return to my squishy garter stitch after the eyelet rows were done. So anyways, that's kind of the only thing, and that's just me. If I was a faster purler, once I learn a faster way to purl, it will not be an issue. So anyways, knit this shawl is the take-home message. If you haven't already and you think that you would like kind of a narrow, crescent-shaped, scarfy type shawl, just do it. It's fun. It looks nice. Even though I missed the end of the shawl along, once I get this blocked, I'm going to take some very nice as possible, nice pictures of it for Allison, and I'm going to send them away anyway because I think that she should be putting this on her website, just not because my work is like super great. That sounded really conceited. She should be so proud to have this on her website. But no, I just think that this is a beautiful colorway, and I think that it should be showcased, and it shows her talent as a dyer, and there's nothing wrong with tooting your own horn when you're really good at something. So Allison, thank you very much for dyeing this yarn. Thank you for hosting a shawl along. Even though I didn't finish, it still gave me the motivation to cast this on in the first place. So thank you for that. So yes, that is my one and only finished object that I have to tell you about this time. So now we'll move right along to works in progress, also known as Alpaca, my project bags. So I only have one work in progress to show you, and I had showed you this in episode 3, and it is the Silver Wing Shawl by Amy Vandelar. And I think I said in episode 3, a lot of her designs, she draws inspiration directly from nature. So leaves and flowers and feathers and all kinds of interesting things. She has one that looks like honeycomb. She has a bunch of patterns that look like honeycomb, which is great because I love my bees. So I'm knitting her Silver Wing Shawl, and this was the birthday knitting that I've been working on since June, and it's like super late, but I'm hoping better late than never, question mark. So anyways, I've made some progress since I last showed you, and you can kind of see how these look like feathers. That's what it's supposed to. It's supposed to look like the wing of a bird. So I am fairly in love with how this is knitting up. Like, I love the fabric that I'm getting. I love the yarn that I chose. So I'm using Poppy Yarn and Fiber, and this is her Luxor fingering base. It's 100% silk, and the colorway is called Silver, which is apt because it is silver. And right now, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera like this, but it is glowing. Like, this yarn is beautiful. Beautiful yarn. And I mean, it stands up well. Obviously, silk is very strong. So it stands up well, not to abuse necessarily, but I mean, this was squished in a backpack to get out to vacation. And there was a section that I had to frog and start all over again. So it's held up really well to being knitted more than once, and it's just so soft and so light, and I love this. So the pattern is not that difficult. The instructions are both written and charted. I'm just working from the written instructions because I like being able to check things off that way. But there are written instructions which look really complicated because it's just like a non-stop like onslaught of words, but the repeats are very easy to memorize. Like, very easy to memorize. The pattern, you get into it right away. And again, the only part of it that I'm not enjoying is that all of my rest rows, so every second row is a rest row, so you're not knitting lace front and back, which is good for me at this point anyways. So all of your rest rows are purled all the way across, which, as I just said, I am a slow purler. So that's the only thing that I don't like, is just because my skills are not where they need to be, is the take-home message from that. I do think that is helping my fabric be a little more drapey and less tight, because I am a much looser purler than I am a knitter. So I think having every second row where everything like loosens up quite a bit, and then when I knit across the next time, it tightens it up again. I think that's what's helping me get this really nice, even fabric in the end. So that is fantastic. Also note all of my lifelines. Lifelines are key if you are starting out lace knitting. Lifelines are key. I've used them more than once. But if there is a mistake, like just in the row that you're in, this pattern is very, very easy to pick back. And I know that a lot of them aren't, but this one is very easy, especially for a beginner, to pick back. Because I've had to do that in several rows where I've gotten almost to the end and I'm like, my stitches aren't correct here. And so I've had to go back and figure out, it's inevitably I missed like a knit two together. And so I'm off by a couple of stitches. So anyways, it is easy to tink back if you need to. And yeah, this is just, I think it's going to be really pretty. I hope I can get it done in the next couple of weeks. I would like it to be not more than 8 weeks late for the recipient's birthday, but we'll see if I can do that. I think I'm in the middle right now. So she has 5 sections that you knit through, and you knit repeats of several of the sections. So you do like section 1 once, and then you do section 2 5 times, and then you do section 2, section 3, and then repeat that doublet a couple of times, and then you do section 4, and then you do section 5 and repeat section 5 several times. So I'm in the doublets of sections 2 and sections 3. So I think I'm about in the middle. So I'm not sure. I know that you can make it bigger. She suggests that if you're going to make it bigger, to add extra repeats of section 2 and or section 5. But because I'm not quite sure, I have a full 400 yard skein of this, which is more than she recommends for yarn usage in her pattern. And I am using the recommended needle size. I did not gauge swatch before I started this. I just kind of cast on and went for it. So I have no idea if I'm on gauge or not, and I'm not counting now because it's not as if I'm going to rip this out and start again. So I think I'm just going to knit through the required repeats of section 5, and then I will see how big it is, and if I want to make it a little bit bigger and I think I have enough yarn, then I'll just add repeats of section 5 at the end, and that will be it. And I mean, I'm probably going to knit another one of these at some point in the future. I would like one of them as well. Just not right away because it is a lot of work. Like, this is not sit around chatting knitting. This is like, I need to think. I need to make sure that I'm keeping track of my repeats in my head. I need to know where I am in the pattern. So it's a little bit taxing on my old brain. So I don't know that I'll be undertaking one of these again immediately, but I will at some point in the future. So anyways, work in progress. I'll hold it up nice and close because everyone likes it close up. Oh, look at that yarn lifeline. So yeah, so that is my one and only work in progress that I have with me here. Like I said, when we went on vacation, I had 2 works in progress to work on in the condo. So that was my Pure Joy and the Silver Wing. And then I also packed 2 works in progress to take in the car and like to the beach and to the pool and stuff like that. And neither one of those are finished. They are still in progress. So hopefully by next time I podcast, at least one of them will be done. And I can show you that one. But my knitting bag is nowhere around me. And I'm not going to get up and get it. It's not in the cards today. So anyways, that is my work in progress. I am looking forward to clearing some stuff off the needles. I would like to do some kind of smaller, quicker projects like socks. We are, as much as I hate to admit it, we are approaching sock weather because after June 21st, it's all downhill into winter after that. So I would like to get a couple. I have 1 pair of socks that I've knit myself, and those were the ones that I showed you in like my first and second episode. So I would like to knit some more socks because I have lots and lots of beautiful self-striping sock yarn that needs to be socks. So if I can get some stuff cleared off the needles, I can get on to other things. And there's always more to knit, and there are always more patterns being released, and my Ravelry library is a little bit out of control right now. So anyways, finish things, then you can start new things. That is the way life works. So moving on to the final section for today, which is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So like I said, had my birthday in February. And with my birthday money, I joined a bunch of yarn clubs, Yarn of the Month clubs, because I think it would be fun. And it was, and it has been. And so one of the clubs that I joined is the Scrumptious Pearl Sock of the Month Club. I don't know if it's called that. It's her Yarn of the Month, Scrumptious Pearl. So she's Sam, and she used to live in Montreal, and now she lives in Toronto. And she dyes self-striping sock yarn, and it is beautiful. And so every year for the past however many years, she has done a Yarn of the Month club. And this year, she is doing what she's calling the travel series. So every month, she picks a different country and finds an inspiration image either from her own travels or from someone else's travels, and then uses that inspiration image to dye the yarn. So I have several months backed up. My birthday was in February and the club started in January, so I was able to join and get caught up, which was kind of nice. So I'm going to take you through that because I think that her yarn is super gorgeous. So in January, she started off with India, and she has like a little blurb saying why she picked this yarn, or why she picked the inspiration image, and why she picked the color, or the country. God, you'd think I'd never spoken before. Honest to God, this is the second time that I've shot this episode. I shot it yesterday and didn't like what I ended up with and couldn't edit it to fix it. So this is supposed to be my redo where it's better. I'm not sure that's actually happening. Quality control is somewhat lacking in this podcast. But anyways, here we go. So, January, travel series, India. This was her inspiration image. And so the yarn that she came up with is called Sari Dreams. And this is the yarn. And she sends all of her yarn in these like beautiful gobstoppers, which make me want to buy a yarn bowl so I can watch it like roll around in there without rolling on the floor and ending up in the dog's mouth, which is disgusting. Anyways, so inspiration image, yarn, she nailed it, like exactly. So you have the beautiful orange and the nice bright red and the bright blue, and then you have like this purpley gray blue as well, which is just nice and warm, and it's just, they're beautiful colors, like just gorgeous colors. So when I received this one, along with the February one, at the beginning of March, after my birthday, I was like, yes. Because one of the things with being born in the winter is by the time my birthday passes, I am done with winter. Like I am ready for spring March 1st, is pretty much what it boils down to. I'm good with winter through like November and December. You're going into the holidays. January is typically pretty nice. You can try out all the new stuff that you got for Christmas, and I'm Ukrainian. I'm half Ukrainian, so I mean there's Ukrainian Christmas and then Ukrainian New Year's, so it can kind of be fun. And then February, I mean some people get into Valentine's Day. I'm not one of those people. I am much more into the like 50% off heart-shaped chocolate on February 15th. That is much more my bag. So, I mean, there's half-priced Valentine's chocolate, which is awesome. And then in Alberta and in most of Canada, we have a long weekend, family day long weekend, which is nice. And then it's my birthday, which of course is awesome. But then after like February's over, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. Snow and cold can go right now, because March 10th is usually when we start seeing Instagram posts from people who live like in Victoria on the west coast of Canada. And it's like, oh, the daffodils are blooming. And it's like, you assholes, we have like 7 feet of snow still. It is never going to be spring here. So getting a nice bright gobstopper like this in the middle of winter when it seems like you'll never see color again is just exactly what I needed. So that was January's color. And then in February, the image and the country that she chose was Ireland, which makes sense because the February color shipped in March. So tie in with St. Patrick's Day, obviously. And so the color is called Luck of the Irish. And so you have like your 2 tones of green and you have beautiful blue. Like, I don't know how yarn dyers, they're artists, it's what it boils down to, but I don't know how they can look at something and then just like make it appear and it's exactly the same. Like, it's amazing to me. So anyways, these were the first shipments that I got, and I was in love with them. Like, just beautiful springy colors, just reminding you that things will not be cold and dead and awful forever, which there's a life metaphor in there somewhere, I'm sure. Bad times cannot last forever, I think. So then March was the next one, and so she chose Egypt as her country. And this is her, eventually we'll figure out where that camera is. So this is the picture that she chose, and the colorway is called Gold Dust. So you have your gold, you have a nice, like, it's not really like, I guess it's a blood red, it's like a burgundy-ish red, and then you have an aqua, which is great for a pop, and this beautiful light gray. So I wish that you guys could squish these. Honestly, her base is so nice, and this is just her like 80/20 superwash merino nylon base. So it's not anything super fancy. It's not like it's her MCN or anything like that. But anyways, oh, love it. Love it. Like, these are such great colors, and these are so different from what she did previously. Like, that's another thing that I don't understand. I find it very easy to make things and then continue to make the same things all the time. I don't understand how people can have like constant inspiration. I guess they're artists. That's what happens when you're an artist, is you find inspiration in the least likely of places. And I'm just not wired that way right now, I don't think. So that is March. And then April blew my socks off. So April, she chose the Netherlands, and they are known for their tulips and known for their tulip markets. And fun fact, the Netherlands send 100,000 tulip bulbs to Ottawa, which is in Ontario, it's the capital of Canada. And they send 100,000 bulbs every single year to thank the Canadian people for liberating them during the Second World War. And also, super fun fact, any royals of the Dutch royal family who were not actually born, like you had to be born in Holland to be in the line of succession. But then during the Second World War, the royal family went into exile. They came to Canada for safety, and the queen was pregnant, and she gave birth to her daughter while she was here. And so the government of Canada declared the hospital that she was born in as Dutch territory, so that she would be a Dutch citizen. So the princess, when she was born, would be a Dutch citizen, so she could then ascend to be the queen when the war was over and when they went home and when she grew up. So for a couple of weeks while she was in the hospital, this little patch of Canada was actually the Netherlands, which I think is super cool. So anyways, back to the yarn. This is the colorway. The colorway is called Tulpen, which upside down. Oh my god, you guys. So you have like your nice bright red, and then two different colors of pink. You have the light pink and then you have the hot pink. And I do not know who started the whole pink and red don't go together thing, but that is a lie. Pink and red go awesome together. I used to have fire engine red hair when I was in university, and people were always like, oh, you can't wear pink, you can't wear salmon. And I was like, watch me. And I wore pink and I wore salmon, and it looked fine. And I mean, the fact that I was like 20 years old and everybody's super attractive when they're 20 years old probably helped. But anyways, pink and red do go together, and this yarn is proof of that. And then there's a little hit of like robin's egg blue, aqua, just to cool things off just a little bit. So that is gorgeous. And so this is also the first month that she was offering a coordinating mini for toes, heels, and cuffs. And so of course I got that, because why wouldn't I? I don't have the mini because it did not make it into this shipment, and it didn't make it into the next one, but I'm fingers crossed for June, so we'll see. So this was the April colorway, and then finally we have May. So for May, she chose Mexico, which I'm thinking was probably like the Cinco de Mayo tie-in, because this colorway is called Cinco! Exclamation mark, which I think is super cute. So here is the color, which again, oh my god, just gorgeous. Like, so you have this beautiful coral, which is my jam right now, especially when paired with like a turquoise aqua. Yes, please. And then there's like a lighter blue in there as well. Like this is just barely blue gray. And then you have like this really nice dark charcoaly color, which is really pretty. So my coordinated mini made it in this time. So she went with the aqua color, which will be super pretty. I always like having the coordinating minis, despite the fact that I don't know how to do an afterthought heel. Gonna have to figure that out if I want to use these at any point in time. So anyways, that is the club to date. I should have my June shipment, but Canada Post has misplaced it at some point in time. It got shipped in and never arrived. So anyways, hopefully that will show up at some point. I think we've all heard the crazy stories about yarn being shipped and you think it's gone and then like a year and a half later it shows up on your doorstep. So maybe that will happen. If not, I know there's another shipment winging its way across the country to me as we speak because Sam is amazing. When I messaged her and was like, I don't know when your yarn ships, but mine hasn't arrived yet, she was like super apologetic, which is a nice touch, but completely unnecessary because it's not her fault that Canada Post didn't deliver it. She shipped it. They lost it somewhere in the middle. I mean, Canada is a very large country. I will give them that. They get a lot of mail. And especially with like all the online shopping and stuff that people do, I get that there are a lot of packages to deliver. So it's not, I guess, out of order that a few would go missing here and there. But anyways, Sam was awesome to deal with, and I do love our postal carriers. My mail lady in particular is like hilarious, and I love her. So I hope that she doesn't ever leave. I like being able to like wave at her when I'm walking the dog. But anyways, that was a tangent about Canada Post. I don't know where my brain is. But all that to say that I have several more months of that yarn club coming. So I will save the June shipment, and then when I show you the next batch, whenever that is in a couple of months, then the June shipment will be in there, and I'm super excited to see what it is. Like, once I finally start knitting these up, my sock drawer is going to be off the chain. I'm gonna have the nicest socks ever, but then I actually have to wear them, which is a problem for me. I talked about this last time. It's not only a problem for me to like decide on what yarn to use, but then it's a problem for me to like use the object that results from the knitting, because what if I make a hole in it? Well, you can fix a hole. That's one of the benefits of hand knit socks, is you can darn them and make them better. Anyways, it's very complicated to be in my head. I'm constantly worried about making a mistake that I will regret forever. And honestly, this is just knitting. It is just knitting. There are worse things. Like, one of the things that drove me to finish Andrew's blanket was the fact that I didn't want to frog like 50 million different little like nuggets of yarn, start over again. And now, like less than 2 months after finishing it, I'm already like, I could frog it. I could probably get a bunch of hexies out of there and it would be fine. So even if I do knit a project where things come in pieces, I can always pull it apart and start again and do something with it, and it'll be fine. So anyways, we're about at 45 minutes, which is about 15 minutes longer than I thought I'd have anything to talk about today. So if you have stuck in here until the bitter end, bless you for your patience and your tolerance as I have rambled on and on and on. I do appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. And I will always say show notes will be up soon, but I've said that for like the last 3 episodes and I haven't done show notes yet. And part of it is in my show notes, I like linking to the project page for whatever I'm working on. And I just have not been doing project pages with the zeal that I should be. I haven't been like taking nice pictures of my finished objects after they're blocked or anything like that. So once I get on that and get my project pages done, then I will do show notes. But in the meantime, if there's anything that you want to know, if you have any questions or whatever, you can either leave me a comment below, which I do get all of them. I'm not always super fast on replying. Like I know a bunch of them sat from episode 3 because I was on holidays and just wasn't checking my email. So you can either leave me a comment below, or you can get in touch with me on Instagram. I'm on there every day, even if I'm not posting stuff. I am creeping on all your pictures every day and sending out likes like they're free, because they are, and everyone needs a little bit more love and positivity in their lives. So anyways, Instagram is also a good place if you have any questions or if there's something that you missed and want me to talk about it more. Please talk more than 45 minutes at a time. Then let me know and I will oblige. There's always more to talk about. I'm a long talker. Anyways, thank you for joining me. This has been episode 4. I will see you at some point in the future for episode 5. Hopefully with a finished silver wing. We'll see. Have a great day. Bye.